3 teams left. Kansas, the number 1 seed. Texas Tech, a 3 seed. And how about Iowa State? 2 wins last year, Sweet 16 this year, and a team that was unbeaten before they opened up Big 12 play against Baylor. And, yeah, there were some ups and downs, but look where they are. Randy Peterson covers Iowa State for the Des Moines Register, joins us on Sicem 365 Radio. Craig Paul and David Smoke. Randy, did you have any inkling that they were about to launch into this? Did you see anything that gave you hope that Iowa's, not hope, but thought that they could get to this point?
Sure I did. He said, laughing.
Yeah.
In jest. No, not at all. I saw maybe 8 or 9 wins. I mean, and I'm talking about mostly non-conference wins and possibly picking off at Kansas State in the during the Big 12 season, but my guys, to go 15-0 against non-conference opponents. Let's just start there. I mean, and that's not playing. They're not playing a bunch of little sisters of the poor. They played pretty good non-conference competition, by beating Iowa by 20 right here. Iowa right here in our state by 20. So. It's been an incredible ride. My golly. No, I did not. I didn't see this coming whatsoever. With 6 new players, including a true freshman point guard, and there's not many of those around anymore. Guys that didn't even know each other in June. When they came to campus in June, they didn't know each other. I mean, this is I don't know what it is. It's incredible, the job that TJ Otzelberger and his staff have done.
Randy, when the Big 12 season started and the conference record was what it was, did you think that when the tournament got started, like maybe they'd run out of gas, and should we have maybe looked back to that non-conference with how they match up with teams that don't live in the Big 12?
I honestly thought they'd run out of gas, without question, and I was wrong. I remember asking TJ about it a couple times during press conferences. I was curious about his level of concern for the team, possibly, like you said, running out of gas, because the identity of this team is defense. Lord knows they can't shoot straight, so it's the defense that's carried this team. And when you play defense, you guys know this. You've been around the game as long as I have, almost. You expend more energy playing defense than you do scoring. But these guys have played hard defense throughout the season, and I just was curious about them running out of gas, but they haven't. They absolutely have not run out of gas. It's almost like they've got second wind during this tournament run. They stunk up the place in the Big 12 tournament, but then against LSU, they looked fantastic. Against Wisconsin in an arena in Milwaukee that was 90% Wisconsin fans, they pushed and shoved and out physicaled a physical Wisconsin team, and throughout the game got them so flustered that they were discombobulated with their offense. So. Yeah, I thought this team would run out of gas, but man, it hasn't. And like I said, they've got second wind now. They're certainly not going to run out of gas on Friday or even after that.
TJ Otzelberger, I mean, you mentioned a bit there, their defense and all that, but how was he just able to come in and so quickly flip this thing? I mean, what are the intangibles? What was it about his mentality and just the design of this program that allowed them to be able to flip that switch the way they did?
Jamie Pollard, the athletic director, knew that this team was going to need a makeover. I mean, and players were leaving right and left. A lot of players left the program after Steve Prohm got fired after going 2-22. And TJ was at Iowa State as an assistant for Fred Hoiberg. He was an assistant for Greg McDermott, and he was an assistant under Prohm for a year. Under Hoiberg, TJ was one of the top two, was maybe the top recruiter on the team. That's about the time the transfer portal became a thing, and TJ became a master of the transfer portal. with Fred. So he every transfer that TJ recruited, back working with Hoiberg, and even in his first season with Chrome, they all did something. They all panned out. And so TJ knows his way around that transfer portal. He knows exactly what he's looking for. I was talking to Lon Kruger the other day, the former Oklahoma coach, great coach, future Hall of Famer. I was talking to Lonnie yesterday, and he told me, he said that the fact that TJ knows what to look for when he goes into the portal. You're maybe not looking for the greatest player. He said some guys go into the portal, some coaches go to the portal looking for the greatest player. TJ's looking for the greatest fit. Mm-hmm. He wants a guy that can play defense. He wants a guy that going to buy into Iowa State culture. He wants a guy that's going to be a good person on and off the field. He wants or on and off the court. He wants somebody that's good in the community, somebody personable, somebody that can, like I said, I think that can play defense. That fits the culture of what Iowa State is, and TJ knows that better than anybody, having been there and having his wife's a former Iowa State All-American. So TJ knew. So Lonnie or Coach Kruger was telling me that TJ knew how to work the transfer portal in that respect, and he knew exactly what he wanted, and he got him. And these guys. There's not been one iota, one speck of trouble, one speck of jealousy with these guys. They've been all in. They've been all for one, and everybody's bought into the philosophy of playing defense.
You just mentioned, and I'm not trying to say this because it's worked. Fit, culture, character, community, reason, personable, and defense. That's really how Scott Drew and Baylor have become successful. It's exactly like the formula. Now, it may not work for everybody. UT, which made a nice run, lost, of course, in a tough game to Purdue, and a team that was highly ranked to start the year. They had a bunch of guys come in. Some of them played well, but maybe not all throughout that. Not saying they weren't good kids, but it may not have been a fit or what they could do. And they were good, but Iowa State, what they done, they got beat. They scored 36 against Oklahoma State, crushed by Tech to close out the year by 31. This is almost not miraculous, but it's just hard to fathom, and I'm happy for them. No question about it, Randy.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it shows you how tough it shows you how good the Big 12 is. We all read the analytics. We've all heard coaches 1 through 10 of all the coaches in the Big 12 say the Big 12 is the toughest conference in the United States. You never really know it until you go out there and play it. But for Iowa State to go 15-0 against non-conference competition, and like I said a little while ago, it was pretty good non-conference competition. It made the Iowa States and everybody else in the Big 12. Once you play outside the conference, these teams don't, in Iowa State's respect at least, these opponents Iowa State was playing, LSU and Wisconsin in the first 2 rounds, they saw on defense, they saw on film the kind of defense on video, the kind of defense that Iowa State was playing. But where it's help side defense is off the charts good. They double team everything, on ball defense is great. But they didn't experience the tenacity that Iowa State plays it with until you actually face them. And once you face them, it was different. And while the Big 12 opponents have a book on each other, the non-conference opponents did not have a book on Iowa State. And so that's whether they pulled off whether they were a surprise team or whatever you want to say it. That's all well and good. It worked and it's carried Iowa State into the Sweet 16.
A couple of those non-conference wins, Xavier, Memphis, of course, took Gonzaga right down to the wire in a recent NCAA tournament game. Paul?
Randy, what do you think about this matchup with Jim Larrañaga in Miami, a team that needed to close the season well, kind of like Iowa State to secure their bid in the NCAA tourney, and they walloped Auburn pretty good, ran up and down the floor on them.
Man, just like you said, having beaten coming into this game with what was an 18-point win against Auburn. My God, yeah. That was that's got to be a pretty good motivator. I mean, confidence builder for Miami. And like you said, the first two words you said during this question, Jim Larinaga, my gosh, this guy's a wonderful coach. He's been there a long time, and he's got. I was looking at their record. They played Duke close twice. Twice they played Duke very close. They beat Auburn, like we talked about. I've seen Iowa State favored by a point. I've seen Miami favored by a point. I just think it's going to be. It's got the potential to be, a whale of a game. I don't think either team has maybe the greatest talent. This probably not the best team that Miami's ever had. I know it's not the best team that Iowa State's ever had, but when you take out the scoring averages of what made, when you take the points out of it, we've got that both teams have guys that have bought in. Miami is a team that's guard heavy, so it might be interesting in that respect. And I was talking to Iowa State post player George Conant today. He's from Chicago. He was talking about playing against Charlie Moore again, Miami's point guard. Miami's sixth-year point guard, by the way. He's been there a while. They played against each other in high school, so it's going to be. He's looking forward to playing against him, and they're good buddies. Playing against him on Friday back in their own hometown. So Iowa State's going to have its work cut out for them. I mean, it's Iowa State's not great, not the greatest in the post, and so but maybe they can score in there because I don't think Miami is the tallest or the best team in the post in the tournament. But yet, Iowa State's going to have to continue. For the last two games, Iowa State shot it pretty well. That's going to have to continue.
Randy, thank you. We'll have you back on if it's okay. Craig, you got another question for him? I want to get into spring football at some point, unless you're going to do that right now. Go ahead. Yeah, I've got time.
Yeah, I mean, last year there were, I guess, some big outside expectations. Obviously, a very up and down year, and now a bit of a changing of the guard, losing some very familiar faces that we've seen for the Cyclones, Purdy, Kolar, et cetera. What are kind of the thoughts and expectations right now as spring ball gets underway?
Yeah, spring ball started 2 weeks ago. I know it did. They started early. They practiced for a week and then they took a week off. They had pro day today, and then they're back they're heavy into the rest of spring ball starting tomorrow, I think. But the expectations were high last year, and they didn't. I don't think they lived. I know they didn't live up to expectations. And the expectations for this coming season won't be as high as they were, obviously, because of the reasons you mentioned. Losing those players, especially Breece Hall and Brock Purdy, those are tough players to replace. I think Iowa State has got the foundation laid now to get 7 wins or so each season. I think that's pretty much in place. They had good reserves. They had good backups. Breece Hall had a good backup. The backup quarterback's going to be interesting to see how that works out, though, because the Brock Purdy played 95% of the snaps, and why wouldn't he? I mean, it's not like Iowa State was blowing opponents out last year. So they needed him in there, and the backup quarterback didn't get a ton of snaps. But Iowa State's offensive line is mostly veteran. Linebackers are – a couple linebackers came back that was kind of surprising, so that might make up for some of the loss of losing Mike Rose. I don't think Iowa State's going to fall off the face of the earth, but I think it's going to be a tough go. But I still think they're good enough to win 7 games, at least get back in the bowl situation.
Randy, we'll talk to you again. Look forward to seeing you at some point this summer at Big 12 Media Days, but we'll discuss things with you before then. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Randy Peterson, Des Moines, Iowa Register, joins us at Randy Pete on Twitter about Iowa State, their great run. And he's right, man. You both have mentioned this. The chat room mentioned this. The calls. You play each other like the Big 12 and other conferences were tough and deep as well. But you play that, and then you get outside the conference, and it's almost a relief. No matter who you're playing, a higher seed, a really highly ranked team. And that has obviously been the case for Iowa State, and it was almost the case even another week deeper for TCU as well.